You really were the tough guy for Long Beach. I take it all back. I had one fight in high school and I won it by 35 yards. I was so far gone. Yeah. So this is the real deal. Okay. All right. Okay.
So I pull over in the left-hand lane and they pull up next to me. I'm thinking we're just going to exchange words. We'll pull over and I'll take care of business. And before I even had that opportunity, I heard this big boom.
Welcome back to another week, and I'm here with the man, the myth, the legend, Darren Sugiyama. Nailed it. Nailed it. You know how nervous I was. A man of many talents, author, speaker, entrepreneur. Got the book right here, and I was telling you earlier, I'm still working my way through it. I'm a slow reader, but you can see it's got the damage. And I've been really tearing into it. I've been at least making a mess with it.
That's authentic.
Yeah, it's the real deal. But I am actually really enjoying it, and I just need more time. So as long as you give me more time, I promise I'll come back. I'll do a book report on it or whatever you need. So we got connected through, you have an Alaska connection.
Yes.
One of your employees is from Juneau, which I don't know if you know this. I'm from Ketchikan. Arch rivals.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The biggest rivals, and they are the Bears, the Juneau Bears, and we were the K-High Ketchikan King Salmon.
Okay.
So it wasn't really ever a fair fight. You know, it was the Bears against the Salmon, and they pretty much dominated us for years and years and years. And we won a few games here and there, but they were definitely the big dogs, and we were the underdogs. So, dude, I love your story, and I'm really glad that we are able to connect. And I just wanted to learn a little bit about how you got to where you are and with all your successful businesses and how you turned them around so fast and your interesting background. So take us way back. I'd love to hear kind of about your childhood and where you grew up. You don't have to talk about anything painful if you don't want to. It's not one of those therapy sessions.
Talk about that. It's all painful.
I got all pain. Tell me your most painful memory right now.
Yeah.
No, but...
So grew up in Long Beach, California.
Okay.
Real diverse childhood I had. So I kind of grew up in an upper middle class family, white picket fence. Dad was an orthodontist. But Long Beach was a really diverse city, right? So I had friends from all kinds of different backgrounds, socioeconomic backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds. And when it came time to go to high school, I was supposed to go to Long Beach Poly.
Okay.
So Long Beach Poly is where like Snoop Dogg went, for example.
Yeah.
So
I've heard of him.
Yeah. So
when I think you, I think Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, right.
One and the same.
Right.
It makes sense to me.
So all my friends went to high school with Snoop.
Okay.
But at the same time, this is when busing was really big. So you had kids from different neighborhoods all going to school together. So Cameron Diaz, for example, grew up like 3 blocks from my house.
No way.
So we went to like junior high school together.
Okay.
So Long Beach Poly had the likes of Cameron Diaz and Snoop Dogg sitting in the same classroom. So it was a really kind of an interesting demographic because you got exposed to a lot of different people. And I think in many ways that helped me in life and really even in business, because regardless of the background someone comes from, there's some piece of that person I can relate to because I've been around so many different types of people. So it's just a really diverse situation.
Yeah.
So by the time I got to high school, my parents shipped me off to Los Alamitos High School, which is kind of like your quintessential Anglo upper middle class Orange County suburban,
Okay.
So all my friends went to school in the hood and
you got
Poly.
Okay.
Yeah. Then I went to this.
Okay, sell out. You went to the nice school. Got it.
Right.
I get the dynamic now.
So a lot of my friends growing up and they went to the Poly and they're dealing drugs and they carried guns and there was that kind of elements and stuff like that. And then I had this completely different kind of lily white, suburban Orange County, experience. So I think having like dual residency on both sides of the track, so to speak, what was I think really valuable because I don't take anything for granted.
Yeah.
But I also have seen people doing really well, and so that didn't seem out of reach either.
Yeah.
So I was a ball player. I played baseball in high school, and then went.
What position? I feel like you were a pitcher.
Nah, in high school I was third base.
Okay. Good hands, strong arm.
For high school.
Okay.
So I go to Loyola Marymount University.
Okay.
And my freshman year we were ranked 9th in the nation, NCAA.
Okay.
And that was one of the most depressing things in my whole baseball career because I got there and realized compared to the All-American guys and the guys who are going to go pro, their skill level was so much greater than mine. It was just ridiculous.
Yeah. Were you weren't doing steroids and they weren't. So that was the difference. I'm going to let you know right now. The only reason they were better than you were the drugs. No, just kidding. Don't do drugs.
Not at all. I could hit. Right?
Okay.
Couldn't run, couldn't throw, couldn't catch, but I could hit.
Okay.
So I was a DH / first baseman / left fielder in college.
Like power hitter, you're cleanup guy? Okay.
Guy, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yep. And I had a decent college career, but like going back to like where I came from, I came into college with this kind of attitude and this rep of being the tough guy from Long Beach. And being one of the few Asian guys.
Now, were you the tough guy from Long Beach, or was it just a persona?
My friends were the tough guys from Long Beach.
Okay, yeah. He hangs out with the tough guy, so by proxy.
Right.
Okay. He knows Snoop.
Yeah.
Real quick, what's Cameron Diaz's sister's name? Do you know Shemaine?
I do.
Okay.
I was
small world.
With her, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When I was saying, I was like, I gotta ask Jennifer because we love her. So.
Yeah.
Okay. So back to the tough guy from Long Beach.
Yeah. So I get to college. And like every self-proclaimed tough guy, it's coming from a place of insecurity, right, and overcompensation. So I was getting in fights all the time, picking fights all the time. And
you were?
I was, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did not see that coming. Okay.
Yeah. So at the beginning of my sophomore year, I'm driving. I got a teammate in the front seat, teammate in the back seat. And it's about 10 o'clock at night or so, and we're just leaving a party, and this car pulls up next to us, and they're mad dogging us, right? Looking at us.
Yeah,
of course, I can't let someone look at me.
Yeah. Mad dog or sad dog.
How am I going to let that
just
go?
Don't look,
right?
yeah.
I can't let that go. And I got this reputation, so I speed up in front of them, slam on the brakes. We're going like 5 miles an hour down the road, and I figured we'd pull over, and I'd just beat the crap out of them, and there's just fortifying my rep. Stupid. You
really were the tough guy from Long Beach. I take it all back. I had one fight in high school and I won it by 35 yards. I was so far gone. Yeah. So this is the real deal. Okay. All right. Okay.
So I pull over in the left-hand lane and they pull up next to me. I'm thinking we're just going to exchange words. We'll pull over and I'll take care of business. And before I even had that opportunity, I heard this big boom. And my ears are ringing, and I'm completely disoriented, and I see the car pull off, and I see the barrel of a shotgun hanging out the window. And just like that, I realized I just got shot in a drive-by shooting. Car-to-car assault style. And I think the crazy thing about that experience was, I distinctly remember it as it was happening, I was not shocked. Like it wasn't outside the realm of normality that I would get shot in a drive-by shooting because I had these experiences, these nighttime activity experiences with some of the guys I grew up with. And I still remember from the emergency room, I can't remember what time it was, but it was late at night, and I called my parents to let them know what was going on. And they were out of town on vacation. And so my younger brother, who's 4 years younger than me, answered the phone. And I said, "Hey, Brandon, I'm calling you from the emergency room. I just got shot in a drive-by." And he thinks, because I'm always joking around, he thinks I'm joking around. Like, yeah, you got shot in a drive-by shooting, right?
You.
I'm like, no, I just got out of surgery. And that really fundamentally changed a lot of things in my life. At first for the worst, and then dramatically for the better. So it's like, I'm not saying I'm 50 Cent, but like 50 Cent gets shot like 9 times.
You only got shot once, okay? That's like crazy.
But it gives you that increased street credibility, I guess, if you think that's important to you.
Yeah.
And I got worse for a little bit.
Because now you're the tough guy, you're invincible.
Exactly.
Bullets can't take me out. Yeah.
The rumors are no longer rumors, like everyone knows.
And how old were you? 17, 18?
It was right before my 19th birthday.
Okay.
So
and where'd you get shot?
In the head. So with shock. So to this day, I have about 30 buckshots embedded in the back of my skull as we speak. So outside,
you do have the street cred. Yeah, you do have the street cred. I'm sorry, we're not glamorizing, but
I have the stupidity cred, is what I have.
Yeah.
In a frame outside of my office is the X-ray of my head. So you see the skull and you see all the little dots.
Don't mess with the CEO. Don't mess with the boss.
No. It's a reminder for me that every time I start my day, I see that walking in my office and I realize I'm really unbelievably fortunate and blessed to even still be alive, to get a second chance to do something good.
Yeah.
Because at that point, I was doing some things good and some things not so good.
Yeah. And that's what I love about stories like this. Not that I love stories of people getting shot, let me be very clear. But
my pain is your entertainment.
Yeah, exactly. I'm loving it. Yeah. But the goal ultimately is, by you sharing your story, is that you can keep someone from having to go through that situation where maybe they don't get as lucky or blessed or whatever you believe, you know, from this situation. And people can learn from basically your hubris and your mistake, and you know that I think most teens especially can really relate to. They feel invincible, and I can drive as fast as I want, and they want to drink or not with a seatbelt or whatever the thing is, and there's this level of invincibility until you have that thing. I've dealt with that, and even I think it was about 2 years ago I got jumped in a bathroom to some guy I was mouthing off to. Granted, I felt like I was justified, but you never know what someone's capable of. And this guy jumped me, and I was lucky to live. Luckily, some people came in, and I was like, got me from behind, and it opened up my eyes of like, I remember looking him in the eye, and he was on top of me, holding down. He was like 100 pounds heavier, and I was like, this guy is gonna kill me. Right. Like he had that look, and I found out the next day that he'd gone to jail for killing someone before. Oh, wow. So like I really was lucky, and that has radically changed for me in the same way it sounds like it did for you. Of like, someone honks their horn at me when I'm driving here in LA or Orange County. Okay, sorry. Like, you know what I mean? Like, not that you have to roll over and be a doormat for people, but you don't know what someone's capable of. You don't know if they have that gun in there and they're a crazy person and they have nothing to lose. Right. And I mean, for me, that was probably the most significant violence that I ever experienced. And I didn't expect it. In much the thing, like you expected there to be a little scuffle, but you were probably bigger and stronger, or else you wouldn't have pulled over, or more of you than them. I'm sure you had a few. You're smart enough to have a few of those in your hands. So you went from, you said it got worse for a little bit.
Yeah.
What turned it around so that it did go to, all right, like I'm lucky to have a second chance. I want to do something great with my life, or help other people, or just live a more life of gratitude. Was there something else that happened, or is it just a maturity thing?
No, it was about a year later. So immediately thereafter, again, I'm going to parties, and I walk in the room, and everyone's, you know, he's the guy. And I let that fuel that, again, I call it insecurity, but I let it fuel that insecurity, and I tried, I guess even more so to overcompensate for my insecurities, because I had this like track record of toughness now, having been shot. And I mean, I remember in college going to parties, and my teammates would like intentionally be idiots and pick fights with people because I'm with them.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Right? So
Darren's here, D-Train.
You know?
Yeah.
And so about a year later, I got introduced to a church, and at the time when I got shot, I was atheist.
Okay.
So I mean, I still remember.
Pretty outspoken atheist, or just kind of like not?
Yeah, no, just not.
Yeah, not buying it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I'm in my car. And I got blood gushing out the back of my head. I ripped my t-shirt, because I was conscious of the whole thing. I ripped my t-shirt off, plugged the back of my head. Just a few minutes later, you could wring the blood out of my head. I was losing a lot of blood. And my friend in the front seat ran in to call 911. And apparently, he said when he came back, I hear him like yelling my name, and I had passed out, slumped over on the wheel with blood gushing. He thought I was dead.
Yeah.
So he starts yelling my name. I come to, and I still remember this, being an atheist, praying to God for another chance.
Yeah.
Like saying, if I get another chance, that I would commit to doing something really good. You know?
Yeah.
And I didn't know at the time what that meant. Like I was 19 years old, or not even 19 years old. Like, what good am I going to do? And about a year later, became a Christian and started going to church, and started teaching Sunday school at a church in South Central, and that radically changed the direction of my life. And even since then, there's been a lot of strange roads I've gone down as a result of this very diverse, past.
And that's a real testament to you, I think, because not everyone would go that direction, and I'm sure there's tons of stories of people who that happens and it makes them bitter. And we talk a lot about getting bitter versus getting better, and how we're all going to have these situations. Sometimes maybe they're a little bit brought on to us. In your case, where there's, I'm puffing up my chest and I'm trying to be a tough guy, and sometimes it's totally out of our control. But it's unfortunate. But all you can do is the decision of now, what is my attitude going to be? How am I going to respond? Am I going to let this define my whole life? And I believe it so much, it's on the side of the bus, of the power of your attitude, because we all have these these unfortunate things that happen, sadly, but it's like for you, this thing that was a negative thing that happened, like you said, it made it tough for a while, but it actually was the thing that made you who you are today and has allowed you to accomplish these great things and help other people. And I just love it, and just want to commend you for using that as a good thing, because a lot of people could have got more into the streets and more into the gang violence and more into all those things, but you saw that, and I feel like your parents probably, in the upbringing that you had, just from the little bit that I've heard, probably had a good influence and impact on that as well.
Sure.
I was the same way, not in that scenario, but that I was really blessed to have good parents that are together and encouraged me to chase after these things and believed in me. And that's the biggest thing that I see when I go around and I talk to kids all over the place, is a lot of them don't have that. And that's actually what made me want to get going in this in the beginning, was they would come up excited after these kind of basketball exhibitions, and they would be so pumped about the basketball tricks. And we went back to Ketchikan, home of the King Salmon, and we had a game, and the kids came up, and I actually knew their parents, I knew some of their older brothers, and it just had such a bigger impact on me of like, there's something more than just doing some tricks with a basketball. I could write a book, I could start speaking. So I think that's so amazing and cool that you were able to take that thing and be like, all right, this is gonna elevate me to live a better life, to be a better person. So you're sitting here now, and I want to talk about your companies and your businesses, and it's a little self-serving. I get a front row, seat to the expert and the successful person. So that's why I love doing these too. I'm totally open and honest about it. Like, I want a front row seat to this learning session right now. But before you got that, you didn't start going from there to, all right, now I'm going to build businesses, we're going to make tons of money and be able to help people that way. You kind of went down a little bit of a different road. You kind of hinted at, I guess, like you were doing Sunday school, and did that lead to being a teacher, or how did that evolve?
So it was a very convoluted road, right? So I remember after the last inning of the last game I played in college, packing my bag in the dugout, and we already graduated, so the season extended past the point of graduation. And I still remember packing my bag, and I'm thinking to myself, what the hell am I going to do tomorrow morning? Like, I have to go get a job now. I actually have to start my career now, right? I said the same thing. I was
like, what now? No basketball. So I was like,
And I didn't have a clue. And so I had originally thought I was going to get in the music business. I've got one of my best friends, 4 years older than me, that I also played ball with in college, went on to have a very successful career in the music business on the A&R side. So he signs artists, he scouts artists, he signs them and does that sort of thing.
And that Snoop Dogg guy does a little bit of music too, right? So you might have a couple of hands in the industry. Yeah, he's a little musically skilled. Yeah, okay. Right. A&R, okay, gotcha.
So I do a couple of internships, and I think I'm going that direction. And I get done with school, and I have no idea what I'm going to do. And I had a girlfriend at the time, and she was from Hawaii, and we'd plan to get married. So I uproot all my career aspirations in LA, and I got on a plane, and I go to Hawaii.
Not a bad move.
Yeah.
What island?
Yeah, Oahu.
Okay, yeah. And she's an island girl.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Love it.
So I moved to Hawaii, and I'm trying to figure stuff out, and I meet this guy at this Bible study, and he was about a little bit over 10 years, like 13 years older than me. And I don't know what prompted him to approach me like this, but he was married, and his son was almost a newborn, and he pulls me aside one night and says, hey, I know you're trying to figure things out, I know you're trying to go back to school, and God's blessed us with this house that's bigger than we need, we've got this extra bedroom. And he goes, I know what it's like to be a broke college student, so we'd like to invite you to come live with us rent-free. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, you don't even know me, man. I got hair down to here. Yeah. I got 2 big hoop earrings. I'm a bouncer in a nightclub. Okay, and I'm trying to figure something out with what I'm going to do for a living. And dude's like a straight...
You sure?
Yeah, exactly. But I'm like, that doesn't seem safe to me. Like, for you, it doesn't seem safe.
Yeah, I'm bringing riffraff around.
Yeah, and... I said, I appreciate it. I'm doing okay, but I appreciate it. And very slowly became really good friends. And so, kind of a long story, but I moved back to LA, and then I moved back to Hawaii, and I had to take him up on his offer because I had no money.
Yeah.
And
about that room.
Yeah.
I need a shower. This hair's.
And so I lived with that family for 2 years as I was going back to school to get my graduate degree. Get married, and I start teaching, and I'm counseling inmates in prison, and I'm counseling kids that are locked up at detention home, and this is all in Hawaii. Married for just over a year, and my wife comes home and says, "I don't want to be married to you anymore," like out of the blue. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, let's go to counseling. Let's figure something out.
No sign beforehand, just out.
No sign beforehand.
Okay.
And just a few months later, I'm kicked to the curb. I got to move out of the house. My ego is crushed. My manhood is crushed. My confidence is crushed. And I'm like, what the hell am I gonna like? What am I gonna do now? Like, I have no reason to be in Hawaii anymore. So I stuck around for another year, finished up my master's degree in education, knowing I was never going to use it again.
Yeah.
I quit teaching. I moved back to LA, and I decided I'm going to be Zoolander.
Okay. Mr. Model? Yeah. I'm waiting for you to meet the icon. I'm like, he's going to meet the icon. He's over at the Cheeseburger in Paradise.
So I had this cousin that is about 10 years older than me, female, and she had a very successful modeling career. And she goes, there's no tall Asian guys really in the business.
Okay, come and
you got to go talk to. And so I go and talk to, I can't remember how many agencies I talked to. They all turned me down. They said, you're too ugly. Finally got an agency to take me on, and I started doing runway shows.
Okay.
And then I get on a plane and I fly to Milan and I try to make it over there and I go broke over there. And I realize, I'm getting a little bit of work here and there, but I realize my value in the market's plummeting, right? Because I'm getting older, uglier, and fatter as the years stick
my
on,
stocks
right?
are not appreciating here.
So I got to figure something out. And I heard a crazy rumor about an old Little League baseball coach of mine that was making over $1 million a year in the insurance business. And so I tracked him down. I went out to visit him at his office and verified that it was true.
Yeah.
And I remember I drove back to my crappy little one-bedroom apartment in Huntington Beach, thinking to myself, that dude can do it.
How hard could it be? He's not that smart.
So knowing nothing about this, I go get my insurance license.
And you're how old when you?
I'm 31. Wow. 31.
Okay.
So remember this whole thing about insecurity and overcompensating and getting my ego crushed with a divorce, and so I'm trying to rebuild my manhood essentially, right?
By ripping runways. Yeah. I don't know. I'm like, he went from tough guy, gangbanging, to now he's ripping runways and putting on moisturizer cream. I love it.
There were some side perks.
No judgment. Yeah.
There were some side perks to being in that world.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so I get in the insurance business, and first year I don't have a clue what I'm doing. So I'm running my business out of Starbucks and Coffee Bean and hotel lobbies because I'm broke, right? I can't afford an office.
Gonna create your own insurance company.
Yeah.
Okay, from scratch.
Yeah. So a logical, intelligent person would go work for a company, learn the ropes, and then maybe at some point So I just jump in and I'm gonna build this from scratch.
Yeah.
And I'm working, I'm not exaggerating, 7 days a week, 16-hour days. I'm sleeping in my car some nights. And a year into it, so I got my license on January 3rd of 2003. My personal tax return for 2003 showed a personal income, a gross income of $277. Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough to make it in Huntington Beach. Yeah. That's a couple lattes at Starbucks.
I'm living off of credit card advances.
Okay.
I had a little bit in savings, but not much. I'm living like a rat.
No model money saved up?
No model money. A little bit, but not a lot. Not a lot. And everyone thinks I'm nuts, right? My parents think I'm nuts. They think I'm a drug addict because they never see me. They think, how is he possibly making it if he's not making any money?
Yeah.
And so that was rough. That really drove a wedge between me and my parents from a relationship standpoint. I didn't talk to my parents for a year and a half after.
And they kind of just, not disowned you, but they were like, they thought you were making bad decisions.
Yeah, they didn't disown me. They just, I knew they disapproved, and they said some things that I interpreted as being very hurtful.
Yeah.
I'm not going to even say they said hurtful things. It's just because my ego was so fragile, and I was so unsuccessful up until that point in my life.
Yeah.
That anything that resembled criticism, I had really, really thin skin and I couldn't take it. So I said, look, I'm going to step away from everything that is not overly positive.
Yeah.
I will only surround myself with things that are uber positive, and that's the only way I'm going to be able to have a shot at making this.
Yeah.
And so a year goes by, and right at the end of that first year, I felt like I was just on the verge of perfecting the reinvention of the wheel, which everyone said don't do.
Despite $270 some dollars, you're like, this close. I'm going to reinvent how the entire industry is done. And you're saying, everyone's like, don't reinvent the wheel. This is how it goes. And you're like, no, we could do it a better way.
Yeah.
Okay, the self-belief, despite having a fragile ego at that time, there's still a lot of self-belief there.
You can call it self-belief, you can call it delusion.
Yeah, okay.
You can call it naivete. I mean, yeah. So the next year, things dramatically took off. The next year, things started skyrocketing, and by the time I hit my 5th year in the game, we were number one in the country, number one brokerage firm in the country with 3 different insurance companies. By my 7th year, I started doing speaking engagements, and insurance companies were hiring me to go and retrain their people. So one in particular, they said, I was number one in the country with them for I think 3 years in a row. They said, we want you to retrain our 6,000 agents nationwide. And at that time, my company was just shy of 40 million in sales. And I'm like, I'm flattered, but man, I'm running a pretty, I'm kind of busy.
Yeah.
They said, just humor us, and what would that cost? I don't know what that would cost, right? So I went home that evening and put together this ridiculous proposal.
They'll never say yes to this. It's too much money.
Yeah, I charged them 3 times more than I would have been willing to do it, thinking they were going to laugh at me. I come back with a proposal, and they're like, let's do it.
No hesitation.
Really?
Yeah.
So that was 2010. I was in 22 different states, flying around the country, doing these speaking engagements and motivational talks and sales coaching and things like that. And at that time, my son had just been born. He was less than 1 year old. And so I knew that was not a good situation, being a new father and that sort of thing. So I went back and I said, I don't want to do this traveling gig anymore. Let's put together a different business relationship.
Okay.
And so I opened an agency within my agency specifically for that company. And second year of doing that, we did a little over 58% of the business for that company in all of Orange County and San Bernardino Territory combined.
Yeah.
With a dozen college kids right out of school. So I taught them how to walk, talk, dress, act, I mean, everything from A to Z.
Yeah.
Same blueprint that I used before. And that went really well. But, I've had some even bigger successes since then, but nobody sees, I shouldn't say nobody, guys like you don't see the failures, right? So like
people on the outside that aren't on the day-to-day,
they think, oh, he's the golden boy, everything he touches turns to gold. It's like, no, 9 out of 10 things I touch turn to crap.
Yeah.
One of them turns to gold.
Yeah.
And that's the one that you romanticize.
The home run.
Yeah, but there's a lot of failures along the way, and a lot of betrayal along the way from people that you did so much for, and
It's crazy once money comes into the equation. What they say, it doesn't reveal character. Well, I guess it does, but it reveals more of who you are.
It amplifies.
It amplifies, yeah. So now I'm curious, what are some of like the failures, and how do you respond in those scenarios? Like, I imagine what you're talking about with your parents, they just might have been like, maybe this is like too much to try to reinvent the wheel, and have you considered going and working for another company and learning it and then doing your thing? And like you said, what they were saying isn't how you received it because of where you're at in your life. So when you hit those 9 out of 10 roadblocks or failures, the things that people don't see or hear about that aren't in the press release or in the motivational speak, or maybe they are in the speech, but how do you try to bounce back from something like that, and how do you handle it?
That's a great question. I'll use the baseball analogy, right? So you step up to the plate, every at-bat is a separate at-bat, and every at-bat you take, I should say every pitch you address, you fully expect that you're going to crush that ball.
Yeah.
But you also, at the same time of having that belief, you also know that you got a 70% chance of failure if you're an all-star.
If you're the best.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a contradictory belief system and thought process, because you believe you're going to be successful in every single individual attempt, though as a whole, as your body of work, you're not going to bat 1,000.
Yeah.
So I think you have to have that individual optimism going into each attempt at anything in life, relationships even,
Yeah.
knowing that not all of them are going to be perfect, and quite frankly, not all of them are going to be good. In fact, the majority of them will be not good.
Yeah.
But you're going into it with that expectation that you're going to find the needle in the haystack, and that you don't know which haystack's going to have the needle, right? So you have to approach each one like it has a needle in it. And then when it doesn't, you can't get too depressed or bummed out.
Yeah,
it's just one of the 7, or it's one of the 9 of the 10.
Yeah, can't take it personally.
Yeah.
So how the heck did you do this? It was 5 years or 7 years?
7 years.
From zero to
$37
$37 million.
Yeah.
How much do you feel like of that was luck? And how much
That's
do you
a
think it
great
was
question.
your expertise, hard work, determination? I'm always curious how people answer that question.
Yeah.
And it's always different. Everyone always has a different kind of thought on that. So I'm curious because now I know there has been a lot of speed bumps along the way and things that didn't work out, but you've had some pretty good successes. What do you think?
I think anyone that thinks they did it all by themselves and thinks that they didn't have some sort of luck woven in there, even if they had a lot of bad luck. If someone thinks didn't get blessed with a little bit of luck, they have a major ego problem.
Yeah.
Like you have to have some deals fall your way. You have to have some relationships work out in order to go to that next level. I would say by far I had more bad luck than good luck.
Isn't that
by
crazy?
far?
Yeah.
By far.
Yeah.
But you only need that one little piece of good luck, and that one piece of good luck only becomes a relevant factor if you're just working your ass off. And so one thing I knew is that I may not be the smartest guy in the room or the most talented guy in the room or even the most knowledgeable guy in the room, but I'm not going to let anyone outwork me. So just by brute force,
Love it.
if I put in whatever twice the amount of hours, I'm not going to get twice the amount of results, or I'm not going to get the same result in half the time. There's a certain multiplier effect, right? So if you're doing a high volume of activity, you're going to learn some things along the way, and your skill level is going to improve because you figure out what works and what doesn't work, and you figure out faster. So you have that compound effect of all those little secrets that you were able to uncover along the way, and the sooner you learn those secrets, they're all front loaded in the timeline, right? And so all of those secrets is to compound. You have the compound growth within your skill set, multiplied by the fact that you're still working twice or three times as many hours as everybody else.
Yeah.
And I would say, unless you're really unskilled, it's difficult to get beat if you're working twice as hard as everybody else.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. What's the quote? It's like it's hard to beat someone who never gives up. And if you're doing it intelligently, it's almost as if you putting in that time and being in the car and having that year where you basically made no money, but you were building it, put yourself in the position to even have a shot to get that lucky break, that relationship, that big breakthrough that came through. And I love that. And I think that's what a lot of people miss in the story. They say they see you up on stage with Magic Johnson and wearing the suit. So so we got to tell that story. So you told me a little bit earlier, but I want people to be able to hear it. So you were at a conference, and Magic was walking around, Magic Johnson for those listening, and he saw you, and I'll let you take it from there. See, a lot of people weren't dressed good, you said.
Yeah, so it was an insurance industry.
I would fit in. I would fit in there, apparently. Okay.
No.
They're not known for their fashionistas in this industry.
It's most guys dress kind of casually, you know.
Yeah.
And again, I look at it's not just the compound effect of working more hours and developing the skill. I look at it's the compound effect of every tiny little thing you do better than everybody else that seems almost insignificant as a standalone thing. But if you have 5 or 10 unique things that you do, the compound effect of those 10 things is greater than just the sum of the parts, right? Mm-hmm. So dress was always one thing that I knew I could control.
Yeah.
So I can't control, that guy's got an IQ of a gazillion and I don't have that. I can't control that, right?
I can throw some cufflinks on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I always dress to the best ability. I say within my budget, but in the beginning, I was pretty broke. So, instead of be a little facetious here, but instead of eating, I would spend that on clothes or whatever it was to create the brand.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm at this insurance conference. It's done by a multi-billion-dollar life insurance company, and they do this once every other year. And there are probably about maybe a few thousand of the top guys in the industry around the country get flown in for this, and I was one of them.
Yeah.
And Magic Johnson was the keynote speaker. So Magic's walking around the room doing his thing, and one of the most magnetic, probably the most magnetic personality I've ever met of any of the guy just oozes.
He's so nice.
Yeah, it's amazing. He's magic. He's magical.
When I was with him, he made it seem like he wanted a picture with me. Like, oh,
exactly.
Get a picture. I'm like,
exactly.
What? Like, okay, but that's like his way of like, I know you want a picture.
Right.
Like, and it was just so, like you said, he oozes that charisma and just he's magnetic.
So he's walking around the room. He looks at me and just stops dead in his tracks. He looks me up and down. And he goes, "Hey man, you look sharp. Stand up for a second." I'm like, Okay, stand up.
Yeah.
He sees the inside of my suit. He goes, "Oh man, you got the same purple lining I got." He's flashing me his suit. Let's get a selfie together, right?
Yeah.
And I know that's part of his thing to make people feel good and everything, but like, well, why me? Like he could have picked from thousands of people in that room. Why me? It's because I just dress better than everybody else.
Yeah.
And it's not
even
like,
in the rain.
It's not like
Even in the rain, I was like, oh, okay.
It's not an ego thing. It's not it's like if I know I'm going to meet with someone, I want to make a good first impression.
Yeah.
That's one thing I can control. Now maybe they don't like my suit, or they don't like people that wear suits, or whatever, and they don't like.
He's too dressy. I want a casual person. I don't know.
Whatever it is, but I know that from a scientific, sociological standpoint, you wear a suit and tie, you're going to get a certain response from people.
Yeah.
And some of those responses might be positive, some might be negative. But in my industry, I found that it's been really, really positive. So I'm just trying to eke out every slight advantage I can possibly get.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking for the compound effect of all these tiny little things.
Yeah. And if you guys want to see the video of it, it's on your Instagram. Because that's where I saw it. It's you up on the stage. So we'll link that up in the show notes. Let's make sure we do that so they can click on it and go check it out. And you got a bunch of followers on there. I was like, holy cow, people are really like following this guy, but it makes sense. You got the books, you got all these things going on. So this is kind of I'm doing this one for me right now. I told you I'm a little self-serving on these things. So busy. The first time we met, you had an alarm going off. That's my 5-minute warning. Like you have to stay very regimented to accomplish the things that you've done. And I've learned that from a lot of high achievers. Most recently, outside of you, is David Meltzer, who I want you to connect with, who's somewhere here in Irvine.
Yep.
Same thing. 2-minute phone calls. Everything is very organized. And I love that. And besides that, I'm inspired to like go get a better suit now and step up my whole dressing game, because I am one of those people. He'd be like, Magic would walk right by and be like, yeah, how about you? And he would skip right by me and go right to you. But outside of that, you're so busy. You have all these companies going and you're in charge of all of them. And I've heard it, I think it was actually Tony Robbins talks about, I have all these companies going. So on a good day, how many things do you think are going wrong? Tons. On the best day ever, things are failing. People are, doing things wrong. The fires are having to be put out. So with all that going on, you're also happily married. You have kids.
One son.
One.
Yep.
Okay. How old?
9.
9. Okay. Yeah. Who's an entrepreneur? We talked about last time. We'll get into that story because that's a great story. But so how do you, young man, trying to figure it out, the balance of, I feel like I'm kind of in the live in the car, grind it out, mode, drive in the rain, get the tarp off this thing, like whatever it takes, to hustle and make the thing happen that you believe in, that you're passionate in. And sometimes people believe in it, sometimes people don't. But either way, I'm going to reinvent the stinking wheel. Right. So how do you find that balance? And I know even on the time I met with you, you had it real mapped out, and I think it was a Friday, because you're like, I'm going home to be with my family. And so I'm just curious how you kind of work is there such thing as work-family balance? Or how do you navigate that, being so busy?
There's no balance, but there's a balancing act.
Okay.
Yeah. What I try to do, I try to bifurcate my business life from my personal life. So, like, you go to my office, you don't see pictures of my family in my office. Because when I'm doing business, I can't afford to think about my family. I have to think about business.
Yeah.
When I'm at home with my family, it's not fair to them if I'm constantly doing business or distracted. I'm not in the moment with them. So I'm certainly not perfect at it, and I don't even profess to be good or even great at it. But I try my very best to, when it's family time, it's family time. And my family knows that when it's business time, it's business time. So a lot of people, they don't get that, right? So I told my wife when I first met her, I said, look, when I'm doing business, put it this way, this is kind of at the height of Kobe's career. I said, Kobe Bryant's wife does not call him as he's bringing the ball up the court in Game 7 of the finals, right? And he doesn't. Even if she did, he wouldn't take the call.
Yeah.
So don't be calling me in the middle of the day, because every day is Game 7 for me.
Yeah.
Unless it's an absolute emergency.
Yeah.
Now, the trade-off is when I walk in the door, at least on most nights, when I walk in the door and we're having a conversation and someone's blowing my phone up, I'm not going to take that phone call.
Yeah.
Unless I know it's absolutely, beyond urgent. It's a make it or break it type of phone call.
And those people know not to contact you. Like, unless it's literally on fire, like, we'll deal with it when I get in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then I think there's also, and this is something I learned years ago, and I have a little saying, and it's to do one thing is to not do another.
Yeah.
So, like, there are things that I would like to do, like surf more, right? I haven't surfed since in California. I surf on my vacation, but I haven't surfed in California since my son was born. That's 9 years ago.
9 years, wow.
I would like to improve my golf game because it sucks.
Yeah.
But if I'm golfing on the weekend or surfing on the weekend, that means I'm not spending time with my son. I'm not teaching him something. I'm not fortifying the strength of my marriage. And so there's nothing wrong with surfing. There's nothing wrong with golfing. But if I do those things, it means that I'm not doing something else. And so I drew a real strong line in the sand, and there's certain things that I would like to do that there's nothing wrong with doing those things, but I just don't do them. So I cut out all the things that I don't deem as being necessary, and I only focus on the things that are absolutely necessary. So imagine the level of focus and adamacy and passion and intensity that goes into the necessary things, because I'm not clouded by all the unnecessary things.
Yeah.
Right? The less things you have to think about, the better you are at thinking about the things that are absolute necessities. So like, here's an example, you're talking about clothes.
Yeah.
I wake up in the morning, I've got 3 weeks of wardrobe planned out. So I wake up in the morning, I don't have to think about what tie I'm going to pair with what shirt with what suit. It's like, that's
Thursday.
Monday.
Yeah.
Boom, it's on. No thinking about it. And it got to the point where I got so obsessive about that, I started my own clothing company. So,
okay, a lot of the stuff going on here is making a lot of sense.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, omakase.
Omakase. Your own. That's your own. So when Magic called you out, it was your own thing.
Yeah.
He wasn't wearing one of yours, was he?
No, I was wearing Tom Ford.
That would have been amazing. If he's like, well, that's the same as mine. You're like, yeah, well, that's actually me.
Yeah. No, that's more of a passion project than a business. But omakase, so are you familiar with that term? It's a Japanese term.
No.
If you go and eat at like a really high-end sushi
I do like to do that.
Okay.
Yes.
When you say I'm going to eat omakase style, what that means is you relinquish all the control to the sushi master.
Yes. Okay.
And so they're going to serve you the right type of fish in the right sequential or chronological order, usually based on off the oiliness of each fish.
Yes.
And so you don't add soy sauce, you don't add wasabi. It's served to you the way it's supposed to be done. And you're saying, because you're the master, you know better than I, so serve me the way it's supposed to be done.
Yeah.
So if I do a suit for someone, we're not looking at fabric. Don't tell me about the suit you saw in the mall. Don't tell me about what your preferences are. You tell me what you're trying to accomplish. Who's your target client? Who's going to be watching this? What image are you trying to project? And I will develop. If you're in the sound trap, I'm going to build you a sandwich.
Yeah.
If you're driving, I'm going to build you a driver. But if you don't know better, you're going to try to get out of that sand trap with a putter.
Yeah.
And it's not going to work.
Trust the master chef.
Exactly.
I love it. So I want to circle back real quick because I have one more. So your wife, how long did it take for her to be? Was she receptive of that right off the bat, or does that take something that you grow and learn together? And I'm sure, just like any relationship, there's figuring things out and bumps in the road. But was that something that was hard to, I guess, traverse, or is it when you find the right partner and you guys get each other and what it takes to work, it flows pretty smoothly?
I think a lot of people get into a relationship and even get into a marriage and they haven't mapped it out, right? They haven't really figured out, like, who do I want to be? Who do I want to become? And who do I need in my corner? Mm-hmm. For me, I made a list, and I knew very specifically what type of woman would be able to deal with my crazy life and my crazy approach. And so it was very methodical in terms of like identifying who that was. Mm-hmm. So first date, I asked her about how she felt about a prenuptial agreement.
Yeah.
On a first date.
Yeah, that is.
And my wife just was is amazing, but amazed me because she says, equally as blunt, she goes, "Why are you here?" I said, like,
who said which one first?
So she says, I can't remember which came. I think she must have asked me this after I asked that question. She says, "Why are you here?" Right? And I'm like, "Why am I like here at this restaurant? Why am I here at this moment in life? Like, what do you mean, why am I here?"
Yeah.
She goes, "Why are you sitting here with me?"
Yeah.
Like, wow. That's an awfully straightforward, blunt question, right?
Yeah.
And I came back immediately with, I don't know what possessed me to say this. I said, because I believe you have the type of qualities I'm looking for in a wife, and I want to know if I'm right or wrong. She's like,
wow, yeah.
Now,
mic drop. Yeah. What are you here for?
Well, see, like, that could have gone sideways, right?
Yeah.
Like, if she's not looking for that,
yeah,
that's like way too serious on a first date.
Very serious.
Right? And she looks at me without even hesitation. She goes, I don't know why any woman would want to name claim to something that she didn't build. I can build my own empire.
Oh, I love her.
I'm like,
where?
Can we go get married right now?
Yeah. And no, let me ask you this. Did you have a lot going at that time, or where were you at in the stage of career? You had a lot that could be potentially taken if there's a separation.
It was right when I hit critical mass where we were number one in the business.
Okay.
And it was like my first year, the end of my first year of being number one in the business. So
so this was taken off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's a valid question.
So she comes back with that. I'm like, oh, I like that. I like that answer.
Yeah.
And then she asked me, why are you here with me? All right. And I come back with my answer. Oh, I think you might have qualities I'm looking for in a wife, and I want to find out if I'm right or wrong. She goes, oh, okay. And that was kind of the beginning of, that set the tone for the relationship. Like, we're not here to screw around.
Yeah.
And she goes, if you think I'm just going to be another notch on your bedpost, you're sorely mistaken, because I'm not about that.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I will never do that with you. Yeah. So is that what you want?
I'm not interested in that either, and so that was really the beginning. So she understood my crazy schedule. She understood my method of doing things. She understood the prioritization of business hours, Mm-hmm. And so, like, during the week, we never saw each other during the week because I didn't leave the office till like 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, midnight on every single night. Yeah. And then the weekends, we'd see each other. And the whole time I'm thinking, what chick is going to want to deal with? Like, who's going to put up with that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, just to reinforce this mindset that I had one of my best friends asked me, so how's it going with the new chick? I said, it's going good. And his wife chimes
a month
in.
ago.
Yeah.
She's great, I think.
His wife chimes in and she says, it sounds like you really like her. I said, I do. And I've had the new girlfriend talk with her already. She goes, what's the new girlfriend talk? My friend kind of smiles, right? I said, the new girlfriend talk is I tell her every dime I have gets poured back into my business. So what that means is no expensive gifts, no vacations, no fancy foo-foo stuff. Everything goes back into my business.
I love this. Yeah. This is what I try to do, but no one goes with it. They're like, you ain't bringing enough to the table to like. I get no. Okay, no good.
But there's not a lot of women that are gonna be down for that. Like, who wants? That's not fun.
Yeah.
Who wants that?
Yeah.
And so I tell my friends why. She goes, Darren, you're way too hard on these girls. And I look her dead in the eyes and I said, trust me, my future wife will appreciate it. So all the money that I could have spent on all these silly little girlfriends along the way. Not my ex-girlfriends watching this. I'm not saying they're silly.
You're silly. Right? You're silly. And we only made it because we got rid of you and we kicked you to the curb. That's you, Isabel.
No.
Just kidding.
All the money I could have spent on these relationships that were temporary would have been taken away from the permanent relationship. Mm-hmm. And so you could ask my wife now, is she glad that I took that stance? Because even when we were dating, like, the most expensive gift I ever bought any girl was $150.
And we're making millions. We're making millions.
$150. And that was only a couple times, and a lot. There were a lot of Valentine's days and a lot of birthdays and a lot of Christmas and stuff like that where my girlfriends didn't get gifts. Right? Sometimes because I literally could not afford it, and sometimes because that X amount of dollars needed to be reinvested in my company.
Yeah. You have no idea how many girls I'm going to send this podcast to. Just listen to this. Just listen to this. I want you to see what success. So would you?
You want to get to the no fast.
Yeah.
Because every minute, every day, all that time that's being invested in this new relationship that's not going to be last is taking you away from investing in all of this and in the vision that you're trying to that you're going to build. Yeah. You need someone on board that understands that and is willing to suck it up and quote unquote sacrifice in the short term because they want to build the dynasty with you long term.
Yeah.
And that's a unique woman. Right?
Yeah.
Very unique woman.
This is good relationship counseling for me. So my last question in the relationship end of things. So would you say, this is a tricky one, I feel like, would you say that you put work as your number one, or the relationship as your number one, or you're kind of able, I'm kind of giving you an out here, but you're kind of able to have, this is my number one during these hours, and this is my number one I feel like you have cheated the system, kind of like, I have two number ones, because I grew up in the church, went to lots of Christian schools, and the example that we were always given is you're supposed to treat your spouse or your partner just how God did the church, right. and Jesus gave his life for the church, and that's the ultimate sacrifice and putting someone else as your number one. So that's kind of been in my mind, that's how you navigate. You each have to be putting each other number one, or it won't work. So how are you doing that? How are you able to do that? Because it seems like, I mean, obviously you're making it work and happily, and have a child and all these things. Is it kind of that? Is it the time?
It's absolutely that. I mean, I'll answer that question in like, there's more than two stages, but I'll just say two stages, okay. Right? So when I was single, I absolutely put the business first.
Yeah.
The relationship was I would even say it was a second. I mean, it was definitely not number one. But what I was looking to do was screen out the wrong ones and identify the right one. And so if the stress test is heavy in the beginning, you're going to weed out a lot of the ones that are not, they're not ride or die. Yeah. Right? The one that looks at you and says, I see the potential on this man, I see where he's going, and I want to be part of that, and I want to help him build that. That's a completely different woman.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it works the other way too. If you have a driven woman and she's looking for the right guy.
Yeah.
I'm just speaking for myself personally. I was looking for the woman that could run the show in the event that I was in a coma.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Knowing that the chances of her having to run the show are slim to none, I just want to know that she can.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she'll never have to.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Right?
Yeah.
Right?
God willing.
So that was the beginning. Then when you get married, we went through a transition, man. The first 2 years of marriage, we want to kill each other.
Really?
It was awful. Yeah, it was the worst 2 years ever. In both of our, she asked her too. She goes, we've been married for 12 years, 10 of the happiest years of our lives,
Yeah. 10 of them were good. It was like the terrible twos. Okay.
Yeah, it was rough. And we were both type A driven people. And she had a great career before we even met. And a lot of things I think that attracted each other to us were also the things that were like our Achilles heel in our marriage, because it was like this competition thing almost,
Yeah.
And I'm used to being number one, and she used to be number one, and it's like, wait a minute, how come you're not recognizing me as being the most important? I'm always the most important, right? And she's saying the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And I get very emotional when I talk about my marriage and the relationship I have with my wife, because she made a conscious decision to take a back seat and let me lead.
Yeah.
And for a type A person, it's very
to
difficult for them to let go, right?
Yeah.
And when she did that, our marriage completely changed for the better. It was amazing. It was magical.
Yeah.
And what I think a lot of women don't understand, first of all, you got to find the right man that's worthy of entrusting that much responsibility to. But when you do that, it's like, because I know she puts that much faith in me, I'm that much more faithful to her. I'm that much more wanting her to shine and for her to have a great setup.
Yeah.
And when I say setup, I don't mean just buy her a bunch of expensive crap and that. I'm saying I want her to have her own interests and have her own passions and have her own successes and have her own identity.
Yeah.
So she's not, Darren's wife.
Yeah.
She's Amelia Sugiyama, and I'm Darren Sugiyama, and Darren Sugiyama is married to Amelia Sugiyama, and vice versa. And I think that allows each person to have their own individual identity. And we both have our own successes independent of each other. And so when we come together, we're choosing to be together. There's no codependency. I don't need her to do what I need to do over here. She doesn't need me to do what she's doing over here. But man, when the forces combine, like she has amplified my success and created opportunities for me in business that I don't know if I would have been able to do that without her.
Yeah.
And that's how special of a woman she is.
It's a perfect storm. Yeah. Well, you heard it, ladies and gentlemen. It's relationship hour with Darren Sugiyama. No, so I have to ask you, done with that, now that I've got a lot of to think about. That was a lot for me to digest. I'm like, okay, running through all this. I love the book. Like I told you earlier, I still have not finished the book. I'm a slow reader. But as I'm learning more about your story and the suits and a lot of these things, I'm saying, okay, I'm seeing where this comes into place. So why, with everything else you have going on, from the business, from the family, from all these things, running all of this stuff, why are we writing books? It's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
It's a lot of time, and this is very well written. I'd recommend it to anyone. People, go check this one out. It's really, really good. What made you want to do that? And I want to talk a little bit about this one.
Sure. It was not a planned thing, and I don't use a ghostwriter. Everything that's written is me writing, and I have a very distinct style of writing. It's not It's not grammatically correct, right? It's how people talk.
It's great storytelling. Yeah.
Thank you. So when I started doing these speaking events and motivational talks, etc., like every speaker, they always have a book, right? So I figured, well, I might as well write a book.
Yeah.
And I'm always gonna get multiple purposes out of any piece of work that I do. So I figured, okay, I'll have a book and sell it when I'm speaking, but I'll use that as a training manual for one of my own companies. So I took all these notes from every seminar I'd ever attended and every seminar I'd ever spoken at or taught, and it's funny. In our guest house on our property, I got all these paper notes under the 3-ring binder. I got a pair of scissors, and I just start cutting stuff out and putting them in stacks, categorizing everything. And so each one of those stacks became a chapter.
Okay.
And that was my first book. The worst written book I've written of the 5, because it's my first one.
Yeah, you're like, I'm piecing together puzzle pieces here.
But that book really put me on the map. And the title of the book was How I Built a $37 Million Insurance Agency in Less than 7 years.
That catches people's attention. Yeah. You're like, okay, I guess I'm curious.
Yeah. And there's not a lot of books in that space, to start with.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what put me on the map. The second book was yet another attempt at writing a training manual for my people in my company internally.
Yeah.
I said, well, I might as well turn this into a book.
Yeah.
And so that was
sign a prenup. Sign a prenup. That's book number 2. How you got there? Sign a prenup. Keep the money. Okay, I got you.
That was a very step-by-step process. Yeah, living outside the cubicle.
Okay.
So it's directed toward entrepreneurs and how your mindset has to be completely different when you're doing your own thing, building your own thing versus just showing up in a 9 to 5.
Beautiful.
The third one was very industry specific.
Okay.
So I'm in the wealth management space. Most of our business is life insurance related. And so it was really to break down, like demystifying the very confusing world of investments and insurance. And that one, it's called Ouch, how my financial advisor lost me $930,000 in 3 years. Which,
based on a true story?
So you're seeing the trend here, right?
Yeah.
Something. Yeah.
We need one of these here. We need to add one of these.
Yeah. Every major failure or setback I've had was the launching pad for me to go to the next level and the next thing. And so, to try to make a really long story short, I was in my mid-30s and built a pretty successful company and started making money. And so I hired a financial advisor. And this financial advisor gave me this advice, and he told me to do these things, and I was putting away $200,000 a year towards this plan for me and my employees. And 3 years goes by, and I have no idea what I'm doing. I just trusted the financial advisor.
Yeah.
And something told me maybe it would be prudent to understand what the hell you're doing. So I hire a tax attorney to come in and do an internal audit, and he audits the plan for a week, and he comes to me and says, I got really bad news. He says, you're $600,000 deep into this plan. You have zero account value. You got to unwind the entire plan. And on top of all that, you owe the IRS in the state of California additional $330,000 in back taxes, penalties, and interest.
So this guy just didn't know what he was doing, or he was taking you to the cleaners?
I don't believe it was malicious. I believe that he, like a lot of guys in that business, they don't really know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that was a great launching pad was because that experience is what led me to start yet another company in financial services.
Yeah.
So we deal with high net worth business owners, and we analyze what they have for their own retirement planning and their own life insurance, their own investment portfolio, et cetera. And we transparently, maybe this is what the teacher in me, we teach them what they have. And I'm not exaggerating, over 90% of the time what they have is garbage.
Yeah.
And they just don't know it.
Yeah. Because you're like, well, I'm going to trust the experts.
Yeah.
I'll give it to them, and I just hope that they do the right thing. I love it. And it's a common theme throughout your life of having these failures, but instead of them like kicking you to the curb and you giving up and being mad and bitter at this guy, you're like, that failure is just going to be feedback. And what can I do with this? Well, not only can I bounce back from it, but I can actually help other people from having the same thing happen to them, and I can find a way to make money by helping them do that and finding that need in the marketplace. And that's one thing I love about your story. And it's people, and when I look up to people or listen to speakers such as yourself, and it's people who are actively living the things that they're talking about. So you're still living the out, like you're living, not only have you lived it, it's like you've lived 9 lives. These ups and downs, I don't know, it's not 9 books yet, right? You're not to 9, we got to get it to 9. Because like each one is a different story and a different phase of your life, whether it's the relationships or the beginning of the businesses or being in the wrong business or being in the wrong relationship in Hawaii and then going all these places. It's I always like learning from the people who are actually doing the things they're talking about, as opposed to the person who's just got all these good tidbits and facts, which is probably good too. But for me, I just connect when it's like, you see them working it. I see you got the short time, you have to be this place, you're wearing the suit, you made the company, you got the book, like you're living it. So I think the best example is when people are actually doing those things and they're your actions more than your words. With that being said, I want you to share the story about your son, because I feel like he sees your actions in the things you probably aren't even aware of, like the cutting out from your notes and stacking these things and doing all these businesses, of what his interests and things are that he has going on. Yeah. So tell us about his little thing he got cooking up.
He's got a lot of things going on.
At 9.
When I knew I was going to be a father, I had, not saying I was right, but I had the very clear vision in my mind what I wanted to teach him. And I wanted to do it early and get certain things ingrained in him. The last chapter of my second book is a letter to my son. That's kind of the summary of all things of what I believe what being a man is all about.
Yeah.
And this may sound a little bit morbid, but I wrote that because in the event that God takes me home earlier than expected, ahead of schedule, that I could teach my son from the grave.
Yeah.
So, that being said,
Gosh, you're good.
Before he's even
everything
born,
is thought out in advance. Yeah.
It's not right.
Before he was born, you had this?
I was writing it as my wife was pregnant.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
My type A is like lowercase A, lowercase A.
No, that's always
I love
right.
the foresight. No, I love it.
At least there's intent, right?
Yeah, I had the right heart.
Yeah. So, at a really early age, I would have these conversations with my son about like money, like what it takes to make a certain amount of money to be able to buy this thing, this toy, this meal, even these fortunate living accommodations that we enjoy. When my son was 4, I sat on the board of a nonprofit foundation that funds orphanages in Mexico called Corazon de Vida. And so when my son was 4, we took him down to visit one of these orphanages. Now imagine kid's 4 years old, right?
Yeah.
What's an orphanage?
Yeah.
So I'm explaining to him, like, son, these kids don't have a mama and papa. He's like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, they don't have a mama and papa at home. Well, why not? I'm like, oh, God. This is going to get deep now, right?
Yeah.
Because some of their mom and papas didn't love them, and they left them on the street, and they had to, and my son's like trying to process all this stuff. And I'm thinking in my mind, is that too much for a 4-year-old to take on? Yeah. But I'm so glad I did it. So we're there, and he's playing with the kids, and he doesn't understand haves and have-nots. They're just all kids, right? So he's playing with his friends at the orphanage.
Yeah.
At the end, friends. Yeah. At the end of the evening, he starts to gather up all his things, and he's got some Legos and stuff, so he starts putting his Legos back in his Ziploc bag. And there's this one special needs kid that has his favorite Lego piece. And my son, he's 4, right? He comes to me and says, Papa, that boy over there has my favorite Lego piece. I'm like, oh, man.
Yeah.
Look.
How are you going to finagle this situation? Yeah.
I go, son, you're going to have to let that kid just have that Lego piece, man. Just give it to him as a gift.
We'll get you a new one.
Yeah, he starts welling up with tears.
Oh,
and he's
it's
4,
tough.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I reiterate, like, these kids don't have a mom and pop. They don't have Legos. They don't have the things that you have. Sometimes they don't have food.
Yeah.
All right. And the reason
I don't care. I want the Lego. Yeah.
No, but he was. My son was like Yoda reincarnated. Like, he's a really wise soul, And he's like, okay. I'm like, that's it? Okay.
I get it.
All right. So he turns around, starts walking away, takes 5 steps, turns right around, comes back to me and says, Papa, can I give that boy all my Legos? Yeah, I know. I'm like, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Runs over the kids, calls all the kids, and spreads out Legos. It was the most pure act of giving, right? The joyfulness of an untainted heart giving.
Pure,
right?
unselfish.
Pure and unselfish. And I think giving him experiences like that at a really young age, he views the world through a different lens.
Yeah.
So for his 8th birthday, I can't believe you went for this either. I said, hey, you're turning 8. What do you think of this deal? Mama and Papa will buy you 8 gifts, and instead of having your friends bring you gifts, let's have them donate toys and supplies and toilet paper and toothbrushes and money to one of the orphanages, and then we'll drive down to Mexico and we'll deliver all the supplies to the orphanage.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, this kid ain't gonna go for that.
Yeah. I'm not getting the Xbox.
Because I wouldn't go over that at 8 years old. Hell no.
Yeah.
He's like, okay. So we threw this big party at the house, and we have fantastic friends, and we raised a little over $4,000 and all these supplies on top of that. We took them down there, and you have an 8-year-old that's fired up about delivering these supplies to the orphanage, and as all the kids are playing, water balloon fights and everything, my son has a mop, and he's going around and cleaning up behind the kids.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think we're onto something here.
Yeah. That's wild. At 8 years old, he has a servant's heart. And I think those experiences, and that's one thing I've taken away from traveling, of like, you always just see different things and you become more appreciative, of what you have, no matter like where you're at, whether it's the high or the low that we've talked about today. Yeah. There's always someone out there who has it worse than you. It's that simple stuff your parents told all of us when we were kids, right? And there's someone who would just give anything to trade places with what you have, no matter where you're at, especially when you're going to those places. And I've actually been to some of those orphanages, and it's like they're just so excited just to have your attention, just to have someone there that's taken an interest in them, let alone an 8-year-old who's bringing, surprises and mopping up. I mean, it's going to be exciting to see what he turns into and where he takes this with this. I don't know. I think in today's world, especially where I'm at in LA, it's everything has an agenda. Everything, it's like I'm doing something nice for you. Like I give you a gift, a proverbial present, but I'm hoping to get something back in return. And it's like the example of, from the mouth of babes, from kids, it can be the best example for us. And I think that's a beautiful one. I feel like the best way to end it. I do have one more question though.
Sure.
It's not about your relationship or past relationships. But before we do, the book, the businesses, the speaking, where do people find you online? Where's the easiest place for people to check you out so we can make sure they go and take a look and look into more of what you have going on?
Yeah. DarrenSugiyama.com is my main personal website. And then from there, you can link off to all my different companies. Handle on Instagram is at Darren Sugiyama.
Perfect. Yeah. Awesome. So last question. Yeah. You're going back. You might have heard this one before. I know you're a Lewis Howes guy. You go back.
I'm not a Lewis Howes guy.
Oh, you're not?
Of him.
Okay,
I'm a Jesse guy.
You can be both.
My loyalties run deep.
Yeah, man. He's like, we have. Well, you're my bouncer now, so next time I'm going to Long Beach, I'm gonna be like, hey, is it clear? Do I have the key to the city? Do I need to check with you, Shemaine? Yep. Who's going on? That's such a funny little trio. So you go back to your 18-year-old self, and this is before you've had your incident with the getting shot. Yeah. And you're kind of, you're running in the wrong crowd, and you have these decisions that you're making that could put you in jeopardy. What would be the one piece of advice that you'd give the younger version of you? And it doesn't have to be that one. It could be later in life, something that runs true through it all. But if you only had one thing, what would be your most biggest piece of wisdom?
There's so many things.
Is it hard?
Yeah.
You can give a couple. You give a couple.
Okay. One would just live with a heart of gratitude. And understand that even the bad things that happen, the heartbreaks, the letdowns, the failures, the things that didn't pan out according to your vision, be grateful for those experiences, because you never really understand God's plan, right? It's like my friend that took me in Hawaii, right? We're still best of friends, and that guy literally changed my life. His family changed my life forever. And he taught me this. He said, imagine sitting on the curb and watching a parade go by, and you see you see the band go by, then you see the marching girls go by, then you see the elephant go by, and all this kind of stuff. and you kind of sort of remember what already you just saw, and then you see absolutely what's in front of you, but you don't really know what's coming next or what's coming, 10 acts down the road. And he said, that's our human perspective. He says, God's perspective of your life is like sitting on top of a skyscraper and looking down, seeing the beginning, seeing the end, seeing everything happens in between there. And in all the continuity of all those events makes sense from A to Z. But it's hard for us to make sense when you're on like F.
Yeah, you have that short-sighted vision.
And G ain't looking so good.
Yeah.
And you start to resent F and G, and you don't realize that those things had to happen to either gain wisdom or experience or perspective to go to the next thing. Or maybe some of those experiences were like tests. Like, I got this huge blessing for you lined up, but I got to vet you out first to make sure you don't screw up this blessing. So you got to be tested, fire tested in the beginning.
Yeah. And
so I look at all these things like, why did I have to move to Hawaii and get married and divorced, get my heart broken? Well, I had to meet my friend Bob. And I met my friend Bob through my ex-wife.
Yeah.
Right?
It wouldn't happen without her.
Yeah, and so Bob and his wife Charlene and his kids completely gave me a new perspective on family and how to live right and how to be generous with people and how to accept people. And so from there, all these weird things had to happen. Like, I wouldn't be the business partner I have today and my newest company I have today that we're unbelievably excited about, that would not have happened had I not been screwed by all these other faux business partners along the way.
Yeah.
Because it's just like I couldn't appreciate what an amazing woman my wife is had I not had some of these other relationships that like schooled me up a little bit.
Yeah.
So kind of a long-winded answer, but being grateful for the inconvenient times and the difficult times and the heartbreaking times, as opposed to resenting them and saying, oh, look at this guy, he's got it so easy. It's like, man, you don't know what that guy went through.
Yeah.
It's like you say, well, you have this perception of me because you've met me in this little window right here.
Yeah.
But there's this whole backstory of not good things.
Yeah.
And failures.
Yeah.
That couldn't.
Can't see it from in the parade.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. I went to your website after we met the first time, and the very first video that I watched really spoke to me. Okay, so I'll go back to the first thing. I'll stick with this. So the very first thing that was on that first video that I saw was you talking about enjoying the journey. Mm-hmm. And that has been such a thing, thanks to Miss Jennifer in my life this year, of learning how to looking forward to oh, these amazing things are happening and we're going here, and I'm always antsy and itching to get to that spot where when you talk about maybe some of the best memories are when you were in that car. Absolutely. And you were grinding out. It wasn't at the time, but like you were just saying, it led you to those next things and learning to enjoy just where your feet are. And that was so inspiring to me and reinforcing this thing that I've been struggling with this year. And even on the other point was, when you go through these difficult times, these tribulations, your ability to go, okay, I learned a lesson. Here's the feedback. Here's going to move on and be great. Instead of getting angry. I've had a heck of a year with people in my life, whether it's financial advisors, people who are in business with all these things, lying, taking money, burning us. And it sounds like we skipped over a lot of people who, like you said, friends who you lost through doing different, just life and business.
I asked myself, am I happy in what I've done in my career thus far? Mm-hmm. I'm happy with some of the results I've gotten. But when I was asked that question, I couldn't honestly say I'm happy in what we've created here because I've been betrayed so many times.
Yeah.
My life was full of resentment and anger and bitterness. It's like, okay, I've had some successes and I got a nice lifestyle and I've been able to afford to have some nice things, but I'm resentful and bitter.
Yeah.
It's like, man, I don't want to live like that. I do not want to live as a rich, bitter man.
Yeah.
Right? It's like you see the stereotypical, wealthy, grumpy, old, multi-gajillionaire. Yeah. There's a reason why he's so grumpy, because the money never made him happy. And in the process, all that did was attract bad people into his life. And that's why he's grumpy and bitter and resentful.
Yeah.
And I look at some of the things I did in the overall brand and how I marketed a lot of my companies, and a lot of it was I'm the mentor. I didn't say this, but like I'm the guru, and I'm going to show you the path, and I'm going to make you successful, and then you're going to owe your life to me, and my ego gets stroked, and you're going to make lots of money, and how am I going to attract people like that? And so I got this picture on my website of me sitting in my Ferrari and all this flashy stuff, and this whole flashy image I found attracted the people that wanted the flash over the substance.
Yeah.
Like, you sit down with me, we start talking about, like, the real stuff, I could give a crap about a car or jewelry or
just
any
toys.
of this stuff, yeah. Because I know none of that stuff makes you happy, and you know it, but we get caught into this belief that people aren't going to be interested in us unless we have stuff.
Yeah.
And then maybe you're fortunate enough to build something where you've acquired all this stuff. Now you have all this stuff.
Yeah.
And you're attracting these people that want your stuff. And then you get bitter about it.
Yeah.
And I blame myself because I led with the flash.
Yeah.
Now it's like I want to conceal the flash. Like, I want to have all that. If I have this stuff, I want it in a garage somewhere where no one ever sees it. And the only reason I want that is because I enjoy it.
Yeah.
And what I found was a lot of the flashy stuff that I thought brought me happiness, it was a fake happiness because the happiness came from someone else looking at me thinking I was somebody.
I mean, this fails in comparison, but like happiness, I've heard like the quote, happiness is the new rich. Of like, if you can find fulfillment and that joy and what is your motive? And that's something that I've struggled with because I'll judge people. I'm like, their motive, like, you know, it's pretty easy to read people, you know, like your motive is you want me for this, you want to get to this person or you want this thing. But at the end of the day, I don't really know their motives. Only I know that for me and you know that for you. And I just admire that you've been able to define those first two questions and then be like, okay, but am I happy? Because on the outside, it's like, yes, happy, perfect life, perfect this, perfect. But are you in doing that self-evaluation? Am I turning into the bitter guy who feels like everyone's trying to use them or needs these things for people to like them? Like whether I was a fisherman making no money, would they still like Darren for Darren?
Yeah.
And I think that's very profound. So I love it. I better wrap. We got to get you back to the office. We got millions to make. I'm ready. I'm ready to
Nothing is going to make you happy.
It won't make you happy, but I'm ready to do some push-ups.